All right. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for being here today. My name is Amanda Millay, and I'm the Regional Marketing and CX Manager for Waste Connections. And our special guests for today's webinar are our Executive Director of Recycling, Dan Kurtz, for Waste Connections, and our Corporate Safety Manager, Susan Epps, who is also, as I believe, ANSI, you're the chairperson for the ANSI standard for MRFs, is that correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us for today's very important conversation around rechargeable batteries. So as you both know, Earth Day is right around the corner. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about something that's really become catastrophic for the waste and recycling industry, and that is the hazards surrounding rechargeable batteries. So rechargeable batteries are extremely dangerous for many reasons, mainly because they overheat quickly. They get very hot, and it's very hard for fire departments to put them out when they do become large fires. So before we dive too deep into why these fires happen, can you guys just explain what rechargeable batteries are and give some examples of what they may be in?
Dan, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, rechargeable batteries, they're very handy, right? They're in pretty much every product, the small handheld items that we use on a day to day basis. The obvious ones that we know about are cell phones, laptops, but we get further into things, all kinds of tools have rechargeable batteries in them, even down to e-cigarettes, greeting cards, the ones that play music have lithium batteries in them. Just about anything that connects to our Wi-Fi networks around our homes, all the way to looking at smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, things like that. Those have rechargeable batteries in them. Most of the time, they're lithium-ion batteries, and even a very small battery can start a very large fire in a hurry.
So it seems like we can't go 24 hours without seeing a news story, unfortunately, about fires that are linked to rechargeable batteries. There was one recently, I believe last week, that was in New York City that was linked to an e-bike that was plugged in, caught on fire, and unfortunately, there were two children that died in the fire, tragically. So we are today talking about rechargeable batteries, and we need to discuss what is causing them to explode, cause fires. Like, what is the cause of it? Why is this happening?
Well, Amanda, one of the things that we see is people aren't following the directions that come in the boxes when you get the material. No one reads the instructions about handling and storage and proper charging. A lot of times people leave these things charged all the time. So whether it's fully charged or it's not fully charged, if you continue to charge it, it can overheat, causing the battery to disrupt. And so that's one of the common things that we see is overheating in places is that. Another thing is that they may become damaged. People drop them. They may have some damage to them and they didn't notice them. And then, while they're sleeping at night, the things erupt. And if you think about it, the lithium ion batteries that we see today have an energy density. They have this huge amount of stored power in them. So even, the smallest battery can cause a large fire, just like what Dan said previously.
Yeah, so I know having working at a MRF, I have seen firsthand the dangers of these batteries, especially when we receive them at our facilities. So I do have a couple photos I wanted to share. So let me just share my screen. These are some examples of fires that we've had at Waste Connections. So this is one of our trucks that was hauling trash, had a rechargeable battery that was found inside. It got mixed with pool chemicals, and unfortunately the fire department had to be called to put this fire out. This was at one of our material recovery facilities. This is a power drill that unfortunately caught fire. It was inside of a bale. And then this is another truck fire. So this is something that I think people don't really understand when we do have fires in trucks. Unfortunately, this hot load needs to be dumped somewhere, which is, obviously a hazard for anybody that's around. We try to find parking lots or empty spaces where we can dump a hot load, but there is always a danger, especially if a truck is on fire going down the road. So, and then this is an example of one of our MRF team members putting out a hot load at our recycling facility. So this happened pretty recently in York, Pennsylvania. And this was a commercial truck that had a hot load come on scene and had to dump so that we could find whatever was causing the fire and have it put out. So in this case, it was once again a rechargeable battery. And then this is, last photo that I have is from one of our recycling facilities. This was a massive fire that we had that unfortunately we sustained severe damage from this fire. And again, it was linked to rechargeable batteries. So as you guys can see, there's a theme here, as you guys well know. Can you reference any industry stats as far as who's experiencing these, how often they're happening?
Dan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a partner that we use commercially for detection and fire suppression on our tip floors that has really proven to be an asset for us and really for the whole industry. And they've reported some numbers. I think the latest number that I've seen for 2022, and I'm going to read this just to make sure I get it right. The number of major fires in MRFs in 2022 was 325. That was actually down a little bit from 2021, where we saw 367 major fires, and these are fires that are taking out facilities. The total known fires, and many aren't reported. If we catch them early and they're small, a lot of folks aren't reporting these, but just the ones that were reported that didn't become major fires in 2022, there were nearly 2,000 fires, and we're seeing that also at our facilities. I think the latest numbers I saw from the U.S. Consumer Protection Agency was back from 2018, and they reported 25,000 fires caused by lithium batteries. That was back in 2018, and you think about the proliferation of mobile devices and lithium batteries that we're seeing as U.S. consumers. That's the United States alone. Another scary statistic that I saw was in airplanes. We've seen more and more fires reported or heat events reported in airplanes. In 2022, there were 71 fires on airplanes caused by lithium battery thermal runaway events with all kinds of different things: e-cigarettes, cell phones, laptops, etc. So it's a scary problem, and it's something that we as an industry are struggling to figure out how to protect ourselves from, and really what that comes down to is just the number of devices that come to end of life or stop working or damaged in some way. And then folks are looking for how to get rid of those, and they're ending up in our recycling bins, they're ending up in our trash bins, which means they get in our trucks, they get into our transfer stations, they get into our landfills, and for us in particular, they get into our recycling facilities. And as you saw in one of the pictures, a major fire really had to rebuild the entire facility. Previous to that, we had another fire in Illinois that destroyed the entire building, all the equipment inside. Thankfully, no injuries or loss of life, but devastating from the perspective of the potential for injury for our folks, but also the loss of those assets and the loss of our ability to service our customers in our communities, where we lose that ability to process recyclables.
Yeah, so you make a great point. It seems like the news stories that you see, a lot of them are in regards to waste and recycling. So it seems like it is having a major impact on our industry. Is that because of just the nature of what we do, because the batteries are getting compacted? Do they just spontaneously combust? Like, what is causing that to happen?
Yes, I think there's a couple things that cause that. One is the packaging on the battery, the labeling on the batteries itself. So we all want to recycle as much as we can. These lithium batteries, lithium ion batteries, have rare minerals and metals contained within them, and so it's natural that we want to try and recover those things as best we can. So a lot of these batteries, in fact, if you look at virtually every battery, it's got a recycling symbol on it, which confuses people. They see that and they think, oh, it needs to be recycled. What's the next logical step? Where do I recycle? I recycle in my curbside bin. We put it in there, and away it goes. It comes to a facility. And once it gets to our facilities, it's either compacted and crushed when it's in the truck, which starts fires in the truck that if we detect it early, we may be able to, as we saw earlier with the pictures that you shared, we may be able to get those loads ejected out of the truck, but if we don't catch them in time, it could burn the truck. It's a danger to our drivers. It's a danger to the community at large. If it makes it into our facility and it's already on fire, sometimes we catch those as they drop on our tipping floors where the material is first collected at the recycling facility. But it also may get crushed as we move that pile around, or as it moves into our equipment, it may be damaged, and then the thermal runaway event begins, and those batteries can reach 1,000 degrees within a second. There's enough flammable material in those batteries, even the smaller ones, that we have really an explosion of flame. We have enough heat that we immediately have not just a smoldering fire, but a fully involved fire in our tip floors. And as you can imagine, when you have a fire that's in a bunch of cardboard, paper, and plastic, that's some pretty volatile material that's ready to burn, and those fires spread quickly. In fact, industry experts, really Fire Rover, they estimate that every 30 seconds that a fire burns at a recycling facility, an additional $50,000 of damage is incurred every
Wow.
30 seconds. It's an incredible number.
So, Amanda, a couple of other statistics I just wanted to kind of throw out there, and that's that Call to Recycle estimates that 58 million pounds of lithium batteries had their end of life at the end of 2022. So that's in 1 year, 58 million pounds of lithium ion batteries. So, and when we think about this today, if you look at the number of recycleries that are coming about, MRFs, material recovery facilities are coming about, you see that most of this comes to recycling facilities instead of to landfills as it typically did in the past many years ago. And some of those statistics say that since 2017, the fires at our recycling facilities across the country have increased 30%. And the EPA estimates that $1.2 billion of property damage was done in 2021. So 1.2 billion if you look at all the small fires, and not just waste facilities, but other facilities. So pretty some startling statistics about the amount of this material that's coming into these facilities.
Wow. So is anything being done to help stop this from happening? Is anything being done from the manufacturer's perspective or from a safety perspective in the industry as a whole?
Well, from a safety standpoint, there are a number of organizations, coalitions for safe battery disposal, a number of other organizations that are trying to work on legislation to push forward. And it's really just in its infancy and starting to go forward. There are also states like California and a few other states that are looking at extended producer responsibility, EPRs, and different things like that that are occurring, but no real legislation has occurred as of yet that I'm aware of. Dan?
Well, we've been working through many of those industry associations with the EPA to try and develop safe methods. And I said it before, the goal out there right now is really to try and recover these scarce minerals and metals and things that go into these lithium batteries. And so it's tough. One of the things that we're really trying to be careful of is as we talk about recycling these batteries, that's where a more public confusion comes in, right? Just like the recycling symbol printed on the battery itself, if people see headlines out there that say, hey, there's this law out there that says you have to recycle, that it's illegal to throw away lithium ion batteries, the next logical thing that's going to happen is we're going to flood our recycling facilities with millions and millions of more than what we see today, lithium ion batteries. So we've got to be very careful in how we push that public initiative and the type of legislation and even really the language that we use to discuss the recovery of these valuable minerals. And that's what we like to see. We'd like to see the language be recover versus recycle, because anytime you say recycle, people immediately think curbside bin. But it's out there. As far as the safety of these devices, that's what I haven't really seen. I mean, we're making a push to use more and more of these electrified things. Cars in particular that we that we hear about all the time. They're very popular. Big push for electric vehicles. How do we dispose of those batteries? We don't have a solution for that. Every product that we use that has these rechargeable batteries in them, there isn't a really obvious or easy way to recycle those from our homes, right? And we'll talk later about how and where we're supposed to recycle these batteries, but at this point that information isn't widely known among the public, and so as soon as we hear recycling, we think recycle bin, and here we go, right? That's the reason why we have so many facility fires, so many truck fires.
Susan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, the EPA does have a disposal guidelines on their website, so I did want to mention that for rechargeable as well as the other batteries. So, things like tape, if it's a non-conductive tape, to put on your battery terminals and place them in plastic bags and things like that. So there's a whole disposal guidelines on there, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well.
Okay. Have we heard anything from the manufacturers of the batteries? They have to be seeing the news stories about, the fires. Have we heard anything from them?
No, we really haven't. It's a bit frustrating, and I think really the emphasis, really, as folks are hearing this and as they're growing more concerned, we've seen in the headlines, right? There's the Indiana facility that caught on fire, burned for days. They had to evacuate over 2,000 people around that facility because of toxic fumes coming from the plastic bales that were there and the piles of plastic. Now, those are things that we hear about and we're, fearful of. So as the public becomes more aware of that, I think one of the best things that folks can do to really change this situation and to create safer rechargeable batteries, create better avenues for recycling those batteries, is really to reach out to the producers of these products, right? It's got to come, I think the best, most effective ways to make change is have actual customers push back on the producers of these products that contain these batteries and ask for more viable recycling options, to ask for safer batteries, right? When you look at these, not so much what we see in the facilities, but these e-scooters, e-bikes, things like that are exploding in apartments. Those are things that, that's defective workmanship, right? That's a product liability problem for the producers. And the more people push back on that, the quicker change will come.
So Susan started to touch on this, but what should people be doing with their old batteries that don't work anymore? What is the proper way to get rid of them when they come to the end of their life or if they become defective?
There are a number of ways to do that. I didn't say they were easy, but there are a number of ways to do this. And a part of the problem is it's not easy. It's very easy to put it in the green bin and make it go away. It's like magic. It disappears at the curbside. But what should be done is take them to licensed electronic recyclers. You'll see electronic recycling campaigns for certain days in your neighborhood and your communities. The other thing is to take them back to the retailers where you purchase them, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, those types of Best Buy, those types of people are companies where you purchase them. There are also many household hazardous waste collection sites in your neighborhoods and communities where they will also take them. And then the call to recycle and also Earth 911, if you go on their website and type in your zip code, they'll give you a number of places where you can take back specific things. So those are some pretty common places that will take the batteries back. And then from a disposal standpoint, the EPA is recommending that you put each of them in a plastic bag and store them separately. I would not recommend storing them in your house or in your garage or in your car or taking them around, because the extreme temperatures can affect these batteries as well. So really, when you finish one, I know it's kind of next time you go to Home Depot, take one with you, that kind of thing. Don't leave it laying around where they can, cause a fire in your homes.
Fantastic. Yeah. And just to add to that, Waste Connections has really taken the lead on this by creating an outlet that has information for getting rid of how to properly dispose of your batteries. So we started a website called don'tstartthefire.com, and it has all kinds of information regarding what types of items have these rechargeable batteries in them, why you shouldn't be placing them in the in your curbside trash and recycling bins. And then there is a link also on the website to calltorecycle.com, which has, Susan, as you said, you can put in your zip code and you can find a drop-off location near you. So we are really, really pushing the message out there. We do not want these things in your curbside trash and recycling for all kinds of obvious reasons. Number one being that they are very flammable and they will cause fires. We obviously don't want them in your house causing fires either, which is, part of the reason why we wanted to do this webinar today. So that's really all I had to talk about it. Do you guys have anything before we wrap up? Any important last tidbits?
I mean, from my side of the recycling industry, we really appreciate all the efforts that you as the public make to recycle. We know you value it. It's an important thing for the world, right? To recycle these resources rather than dispose of them. And so we do appreciate all your efforts. And we're just asking you to continue to make those efforts and educate yourself, look for ways to mitigate the risks that we're seeing here at our recycling facilities. Again, we appreciate your efforts to recycle. We're just asking that you don't recycle those batteries at our facilities. It's tough. It's really scary when you see the fires that we're seeing and at the frequency that we're seeing these fires, and the difficulty that we have in trying to get those put out when they do occur. It's an important thing, right? We have a lot of people that are working in our recycling facilities, and putting them at risk with batteries, rechargeable batteries in the recyclables. It's a scary thing. So please help us out, and follow these guidelines and look for ways to properly dispose of those end-of-life batteries that you have.
Yeah, so just one final note, Dan, I know in a conversation we had the other day, you made the comment that I think you said you bought something for your daughter that had little rechargeable batteries in them. And you made the comment, had I known that they were in there, I wouldn't have bought it in the first place.
Absolutely.
And I just thought that was a great comment because, when everybody needs to take their own personal responsibility when buying these things. If you feel like you don't have a good way to get rid of them when they are at the end of their life, meaning the battery, then maybe you shouldn't be buying them in the first place. So yes. Thank you guys so much. Susan, do you have anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I just wanted to say that, again, you have to think about when you're putting something in your green or blue bin versus your trash bin, you need to make sure that it's recyclable in the market that you're putting the bin in. So these things are recyclable, but just not in that green or blue bin that picks it up on the curbside.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much. This was so helpful. As I said, there will be more information that we're posting at don'tstartthefire.com, and happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.
Right. I'm going to stop recording.